Good evening, afternoon, morning, and welcome to COZ 21. It's a pleasure to have so many people already in the room, and we are delighted today to have something in the series that we call Composer in Focus, because the International Forum for Jewish Music Studies covers all kinds of Jewish music, whether you're a cantor, whether you are a scholar, whether you're a librarian, whether you are a composer, a musician, and it brings us all together under this one umbrella to talk to each other and to listen to each other. And people have found this very stimulating. So today we are absolutely delighted to have as our composer in focus, Ofer Ben-Amots, composer with a great stature already. He is Israeli, but he is the professor of music with composition and theory at Colorado College. And today he will be talking. So you are taken Ofer in Colorado, and you'll be talking to Rakefet in Jerusalem. And Rakefet is the head of the music division at the Israeli Ministry of Culture and Education, Jerusalem, visiting professor at Colorado College, co-writer of books on Israeli composers, so far Yeheskel Brown and Zvi Avni. And we also welcome Yehoash Hirschberg, who is making some notes on your talk. So may I turn over to you, Rakefet, and the subject is music composition as Midrash, the concept of Jewish musical creativity through the lens of Talmudic interpretation and the role of the composer in permeating Jewish and Israeli culture. We can't wait. Rakefet. Unmute Rakefet and are you there? You're muted. You need to unmute yourself, Rakefet.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so hello again. The subject of our COZ meeting today is music composition as Midrash. Midrash is the designation of a particular genre of rabbinic literature constituting an anthology and compilation of homilies of Jewish thought, as well as Agadot or Halachot, and forming a running Agadic commentary on specific books of the Bible. The name Midrash derives from the root darash, which means to seek or to investigate. This heritage, widespread since the 2nd century, was built as layers one on top of the other for many generations, thereby creating a long line of Jewish literary culture and thought. Looking at Midrash as an interpretation of biblical text leads to an analogy between the concept of Midrash and the concept of Jewish music, including compositions and arrangements of biblical texts, such as the Psalms. While in Midrash, we are exposed to a multi-age text and the canvas of Jewish thought, in Ofer's music, it becomes the essence in his compositions. Using the principle of layers of interpretations, one can find in his music the same principles, such as the use of ancient text as the resemblance of a synagogue cantillation embedded in contemporary music style. This principle is used even in textless compositions, which comprise the same thoughts of texted ones. Ofer, when I asked you about your music and about the topics you want to discuss regarding music and Midrash, I could relate Midrash to literature or philosophy, but how, in your point of view, is music connected to Midrash?
Thank you, Rakefet. First of all, I want to say hello to everyone, and thank you so much for having me on this COZ program. It's a great, very humbling experience for me. And also, the Global Village has never felt as real as it is now. With you, Rakefet, in Jerusalem, Geraldine in London, I'm in Colorado, Lori and Mark are in California, a true global village. I'll go back to your question and to say that the root of the question about music as Midrash lays in another famous and rather unanswered question. What is Jewish music? The eternal question. I've encountered this question and its different answers throughout my life. But early on, I decided that if I write Jewish music, it should be inspired by one of the most significant elements of Jewish culture, namely the Midrash. So a Midrash is usually constructed around an anchor, as let's say a solid biblical or Mishnaic verse over which the sages could debate and comment throughout many centuries. The same concept of commentary could be applied to music. For example, using old traditional musical material, such as the tropes or other treasures of liturgy or folk music, and interpret them in the form of a new arrangement. The other midrashic technique is to apply new music to liturgical and biblical text, thereby rejuvenating the text and keeping it alive for a while longer.
Thank you, Ofer. The first composition I want to discuss with you is Celestial Dialogue. The composition is arranged in 6 parts. Each one derives from Jewish thought, prayers, and folk songs, such as the Jewish weddings Gazen Nigun and Freilich. In your words, this composition is a stylistic confrontation between klezmer clarinet and cantorial Ashkenazi ritual, conveying dichotomy between song and dance, which eventually becomes one. Could you explain and demonstrate some of the characteristics of this piece and its main concept?
Yes, the Celestial Dialogues is indeed an imaginary dialogue between the klezmer and the chazan, both of whom represent 2 different forms and different styles and different gestures of prayer. In this work, each of the 2 is presented separately at first, but later they join together into a single song of a joyful sacred praise, which I describe then as celestial. There is a wonderful recording of this work produced by the Milken Archive of Jewish Music with cantor Alberto Mizrahi and star klezmer clarinetist David Krakauer. However, I would like to play some of the premiere recording of this work with the cantor and famous tenor Misha Alexandrovich, that unfortunately has passed already away, and the klezmer clarinetist Giora Feidman, and the Gewandhaus Orchestra of Leipzig. Let's see if I can share the screen here and find something that I can share with you here. So I will play 2 little sections. One is Uveyom HaShabbat, and on the day of Shabbat, you will offer 2 lambs. And this little verse is being sung in a semi-Hasidic improvisation, but in the appropriate nusach by the cantor. The klezmer is coming in gradually and incrementally, and then the klezmer takes on to play a Gazen Nigun, which is a typical 3/4 meter. That this Gazen Nigun is a Hasidic, or actually it's a klezmer tradition to play in the back alley of a synagogue to welcome the guests who are coming to the wedding. So Judaically speaking, it's all over the place, but the style kind of merges into one. So let me put in the, first of all, Uveyom HaShabbat.
Shabbat, Shnei Chvasim b'nei shana temim, yemim. Yom HaShabbat, Shnei Chvasim b'nei shana temim. Shnei Chvasim b'nei shana temim. Oy, doy, yabba, doy, yamba, dida, yabba, bum, bum.
We'll move now to the Gasenigun, where it's only the klezmer that's speaking there. What attracted me most about the klezmer was the imitation of the human voice, the crying and laughing of the clarinet. And you can hear it very clearly in the playing of Giora Feidman, but I also made sure to put it in the notes in this way. For the sake of reserving some time, I'm kind of stopping it short.
Okay, Ofer.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to move to a shtetl song for voice and piano from 1985. These arrangements of Eastern European Yiddish songs derive from the need of preserving a Jewish tradition, yet they have your fingerprint as a contemporary composer. Could you demonstrate the layers in one of the songs and compare it to the idea of Midrash?
Yes, the shtetl song was written in 1985 and 1986. These were the last years that I spent in Germany as a student. I was in Germany for about 8 years as a student, and I stumbled upon an old book, a pre-Holocaust book of Yiddish songs. And little I knew that there is any Yiddish at all in the world. I thought when I found it, wow, I rediscovered the old Jewish world, the old Jewish culture. I'm going to save it for the world to discover the beauty of the songs. Well, little I knew when I came to the United States how widespread Yiddish culture is, and it's not dead at all, and people speak the language. But as a young Israeli student in Germany, that's what I thought. I thought I'm going to do this service to the world by saving these songs. So I took about 9 of these songs and decided to arrange them or rearrange them in a contemporary way. And I'm going to just talk about one of the songs, a song called Roy's Roy's, which is Rose Rose. And the song is basically one of these Hasidic songs that has the legend that a shepherd, it's actually a Hungarian song in the origin. The tune is Hungarian. It's a shepherd boy that sings this melody, and then a Hasid passes by. He loves the melody. He loves the words. He can see that he can use the melody. He pays a kopeka to this boy shepherd. The shepherd forgets the song, and now this becomes a Hasidic melody. That was a very allegoric, beautiful way to say how Hasidim and in generally Jewish music uses music of the surrounding with no shame. They steal from everybody as long as it can serve the Jewish music purpose. And this is one of the most beautiful ones, which is called Roy's Roy's. Roy's Roy's, wie weit bist du, Wald, Wald, wie groß bist du, wohl die Roy's nicht so weit gewesen, wohl der Wald nicht so groß gewesen. So, how far are you, Rose? How vast are you, forest? If the rose was not so distant, the forest would not be so vast. And then comes this is the allegory for the real question. Shekhinah, Shekhinah, divine presence, how far are you? Golus, Golus, exile, how long are you? If the Shekhinah were not so distant, the Golut would not be so long. And this by itself created already the form of the song that I knew how I'm going to compose it. I'm going to start just straightforward singing these original folk songs, but then when the allegory comes, when the answer comes, it becomes a real cry, and it changes in a very expressive way. So I'm going to play this once, and notice the difference between verse 1 and verse 2.
Weit, wie groß bist du?
bist du. Golis, Golis, wie lang bist du? Wollt dich hier nicht so weit gewehen? Wollt der Goles nicht so lang
Thank you, Ofer.
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about the rhythm of Jewish language. In your
סליחה רקפת,
כן,
רציתי להזכיר בהקשר זה את הגרסה של יחזקאל בראון לרויז רויז, יש לו גרסה ל4 קולות מקהלה.
נכון מאוד. מי מדבר? מי זה? מי מדבר?
זה יואש.
משה רסיוק.
נכון, נכון, יפה. נכון
אני
מאוד.
שרתי את זה במקהלה, שרתי את זה בקמרן.
כן. אוקיי, נמשיך, אחר כך בהערות נראה. I want to talk about the rhythm of Jewish language in your psalm, your composition, Psalm number 81 for mixed choir and percussion from 1989. This composition presents the connection of the composer with his far biblical past and demonstrates music adaptation to Hebrew and to its syllabic meter. The prominent characteristic of this composition is the resemblance to synagogue prayers by the use of heterophony, which in itself is led by an imitating of a drone of human voices. Drums and tambourines are reminders of ancient rituals, perhaps in the temple. What are the tools you used in this composition to adapt the textual rhythm to your music?
Thank you, Rakefet. I just noticed that we said Jewish language instead of Hebrew. Maybe everybody should speak Hebrew. The Hebrew language has this very special rhythm. Yeah. So I think that the rhythm of the Hebrew language, be it biblical or modern, is unlike any other language. The consistent stress on the last syllable with occasional stresses on the penultimate syllable creates an interesting and ever-changing altercation between a duple and triple metric values. These result in a very interesting rhythmic structure. The other element of is that I put in this particular piece that you want to talk about, Psalm Pei Aleph, number 81, is the sound of shofar, using the word tik'u, blow the shofar. So blow the shofar on the new moon. And you can hear ta-ta, pa-pa, pa-pam, the shofar motif very strongly there, repetitive. And then I'm going to play a recording of a performance of the all-female choir Permonic from the Czech Republic. This recording is part of the Milkin archive of Jewish music. So what we have here is the choir, an antiphonal choir actually, like in ancient times. The choir is responding to each other, and percussion. So giving the sense of a really raw, ancient, primeval, maybe even primitive kind of singing with lots of joy and energy.
Oh
Okay, I'm stopping here just for the sake of time.
Thank you. The next composition I want to discuss with you is Concertino for Clarinet, Mandolin, and Orchestra, based on the text of Psalm number 148. The composition is instrumental, and yet I can point rhythmic interpretation of the text in its syllabic character, as if it is easily could be sung. I can also find a vigorous expression matching verse number 8, describing a storm, and a calm and heavenly music describing verse number 11, kings of the earth and all the kingdoms, princes and all judges of the earth. If I count these as two layers, the literal layer and the symbolic layer, I can also find a new one, the traditional layer, the klezmer music appearing suddenly. Could you elaborate on the influences of this composition?
Okay, Psalm 148 or Kuf Memchet in the Hebrew, Te'ilim Kuf Memchet, is one of the most beautiful poetries that we can find among the 150 Psalms. And it attracted me, first of all, because of the rhythmic values of the Hebrew. The word hallelujah has a very strong rhythmic component to it. Secondly, there's something about the Psalms that is poetically very, very attractive. Let me tell you, the first part of it is Hallelu et Adonai min hashamayim, praise the Lord from the heavens. So the first 6 verses here are all about praise the Lord from the top, from the heavens, the stars and the moon and the sun and the water above the heavens and so on, everything above, the angels and so. Then in verse number 7 it says, praise the Lord from the earth. So it's going down, and now it starts saying all the animals and all the trees and all the hills and all the mountains and young men and old men and young women and kings and princes, everybody who is on earth supposed to be praising. And then in verse number 13, it says very briefly, his splendor is on earth and heaven, which means these two elements, the top and the bottom, the heaven and the earth, merge into one in praise. And this for me was an incredible musical metaphor. What I'm doing here in this first movement, the concertino has actually 3 movements, but the first movement, the opening, it's all in the discantus, it's all in the upper part of the instrument, uses the clarinets and the flutes and the violins. And then for the second part, it moves on to the cellos and double basses, the trombones and the tubas. And then in the last part, everything merges together so that I have the entire orchestra singing a song of praise, so to say, musically, just as reflected in this psalm. The other thing that I did here, I imitated the rhythm of the Hebrew language, but I also interjected with lots of dance gestures and very virtuosic dance gestures that are being played by the soloist. I'm going to play the first movement here with clarinetist Gilad Harel, one of the best clarinetists in Israel, and Avi Avital, the very famous and wonderful mandolin player, and they commissioned the piece for me and played it with the Geneva Camerata Orchestra. So let's see if I can, let's see if you can see the video first of all. Continue. Sorry. Could you view the video here? Oh, do I need to stop sharing for a second? Sorry. Let me stop sharing and start the piece. Oh, it doesn't let me do stuff. Sorry about that, guys. Now I will share again. So, okay, I'm stopping it here and okay.
Okay, regarding this composition, I have another question. As a third generation of Israeli composers, I can track the fast part of this composition as an influence of Israeli dance, the Horat, which in this composition match verse number 12, youth and also maidens, old men with young boys, describing the Israeli environment in its first years. As a young composer, what were the most significant influences that shaped you as an artist?
Young composer, when was that? I don't
Right.
remember. But yeah, I think that born in 1955, a mere 7 years after the establishment of the State of Israel, I was fortunate to experience the beginning, the really beautiful beginning of the state, nothing like what it is today. So the atmosphere of chalutzim, of pioneers, was still in the air. We danced the hora, we lived the Hebrew language. Everything was so full of optimism and beauty, and that was a great privilege. We were not religious; we were secular, but we lived with the Bible on a daily basis because of the language, because of living in the land of Israel. So that was a really strong thing. But I have to, there's a list of so many people that I have to thank on my journey as a composer that helped me. First of all, when I was a student in Tel Aviv University, just for 1 year, by the way, because after my military service, that was a little longer due to the Yom Kippur War, I started late at the university, but there at the university, I studied the class of Jewish music with Dr. Eli Schleifer, and this left a great impression on me. This really made me think that if I want to be a composer, and I think if Eli is anywhere there, I want to thank him. I don't think I ever properly thanked him for what he did for me. He doesn't even know. But his teaching and is really a very analytical way to look at Jewish music accompanied me throughout my life. Then, of course, I had people that I studied with, like Mordechai Setter, that was a great influence on me. But I think from all composers, the greatest influence musically was Tzvi Avni. His treatment of the Hebrew language was so poignant and was so perfect that I really thought that is the way to look at the language. Joseph Dorfman, who unfortunately, Zichrono Livracha, who died about 10 years ago. He was my teacher, and he encouraged me to deal with Jewish music and to write Jewish music. In addition to that, I had over the years two important organizations that I was involved with. And both of them were in Los Angeles, from all things, but they were sort of international organizations. So one was the Center for Jewish Culture and Creativity. That one doesn't exist anymore. It was led by Dr. John Rauch, who passed away, unfortunately. But their goal was to disseminate Jewish culture the way Achad Ha'am wanted. Achad Ha'am, the founder of cultural Zionism, that says a people need to keep creating in order to survive. And that was the goal of this organization. And the other one was the Milken Archive. We know that Lori and Mark are here, and Jeff Yatchenko is here, and these people that belong to the Milken, they probably know very well what the meaning of the Milken Archive was for me, and participating in the editorial board for many years was tremendous. I think that the Milken Archive is the biggest project of Jewish music that has been done in any time in history. So being involved with this encouraged me to keep doing and knowing that what I'm doing is the right thing. So all these people I'm very, very grateful for. That is about writing Jewish music, Rakefet. I don't know if it answered your question, but at least I said what I wanted to say.
Okay, so let's move on. Born to a Jewish Bulgarian mother, you were exposed to Ladino songs in your childhood. Your Ladino compositions and arrangements reveal ideas that are not based on Hebrew, but rather based on Judeo-Spanish tradition. We have often discussed Jewish music creativity as a four-stage process: exploration, preservation, interpretation, and innovation. Where do you place yourself in the diagram regarding these Ladino arrangements?
Thank you. That's a great question, Rakefet. I want to say that I am Sephardic. I'm Sephardic through and through. From my mother's side, she's a Ladino-speaking Bulgarian woman, and my father is from North Africa. He's from Tripoli, so he's Italian-speaking and Arabic-speaking. So in many ways, I'm just Sephardic. But studying in Germany for such a long time turned me into Ashkenazic. And when I came back after so many years, my father said, "What happened to you? You're such a different person. And what are all these Yiddish songs that you're writing? Can you write something from your own people, something Sephardic?" So I felt a little guilty about all that. And then I started delving into the Sephardic world, which I found just as fascinating. And in fact, not so different. There is not the stylistic between Sephardic and Ashkenazi go back to the same origin. It's all Jewish. And I felt very, very strongly about that. So indeed, I started exploring the repertoire and the folk songs. First, I always like to do the arrangement. I took the Yitzhak Levi songs that are nowadays are so highly criticized for being not written well, and he was not an ethnomusicologist in the modern word, in the modern way of today, but actually he was an incredible contributor by collecting all these songs. So I took some of the songs from there and I arranged them. I always chose some very specific songs, so that are not so well known or cliche, but rather something that is more unknown. And that made me the composition process very intriguing to me. So you're talking about these four elements that I call in Hebrew chipush, shimur, perush, chidush, which is the exploration. The first thing is exploration. You need to find the material, whether you find it in the works of other scholars, whether you find it in your own family or other people that you know, and write it down. This is a very important, the first step. Then by writing it down and codifying the music, you are preserving it. And that's something that is also very Jewish, because we live with our past literature. The reason we live with it is because it's written down. And this preservation is very important, not only for knowing who we are in the past and the present, but also for the future. Then we give it an interpretation. This is the commentary. This is the nusach that we are giving, the commentary, and the Midrash. And then comes the innovation. If we give it a new interpretation, it is undoubtedly reflecting the times that we are living in. So this is also new and sort of a renovation and innovation at the same time. So in this Ladino, I wrote 2 cycles of Ladino. I was part of the Ladino Fest, which was a movement in the 90s to rejuvenate the language. Was not too successful, but people got a lot of appreciation for this, for the language and the culture. At any rate, I would like to play one very recent. I wrote it just about a month ago. I wrote this piano piece based on La Sirena. La Sirena, or the mermaid, the siren, is about a girl that is locked up in a tower in the middle of the sea. And from the tower, from the window tower, she sees the boats, and she loves the sailor. She longs for the sailor to come and save her. And the sailors are saying, yes, we want to come up to the tower and save you. And this is more of a lullaby. And it's a rather famous lullaby. I'll play here. And this is a ballad that goes for many, many strophes, but I chose no words to it, but rather made a piano, kind of a piano interpretation of it. What is another thing that's interesting is that I wrote it exactly when the quarantine in Colorado became the harshest. So I felt like this girl in the tower in the middle of the ocean cannot go anywhere. And this was became very personal kind of piece for me. Let me share the screen and see if I can, I think. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
A pianist, and she has a mask on. So this is Susan Grace, my colleague from the music department, a fantastic pianist. And here is the piece, La Serena. For the sake of time, again, I'm cutting it a little short here, but it's online, everything. So in case you want to see it, let me know.
Thank you, Ofer. And the last composition, so metaphorically, is the D-book. I would like to discuss your opera, and I want to quote from the Pittsburgh Tribune. Ben-Amots created his own libretto 18 scenes in 3 acts, and wrote an imaginative score that moves easily from klezmer tradition to Eastern European village life to contemporary musical sensibilities. Could you walk us through the process of your creativity in this composition, the dibuk, text and music, and explain the role of each instrument and its representation in the text?
Yes, thank you, Rakefet. The dibuk is a really major work that went through several incarnations. What's so interesting is the English-speaking people, they have Shakespeare, and they have many plays, wonderful plays, and the Spanish people have their own writer. So, but the Jews, they have just one big play called the dibuk, and they keep rolling it over and over and interpreting it over and over. And so when I started the dibuk, it actually started as an incidental music for a play, a production in Tel Aviv University, and I was supposed to be writing music for that. The collaboration with the director didn't go too well. He wanted to create the dibuk in interpretation like a no or kabuki Japanese theater. He thought he was specializing in Japanese theater, and he wanted all the play, the dibuk, to be performed like in a Japanese no theater. Unfortunately for him, he took me, and I tried to write something Japanese, but immediately everything that I wrote that sounded Japanese to me, everybody said it sounds very Jewish. So it ended up with a very Jewish kind of music, and it played for about 15 times. But I had a lot of music written for this play as incidental music. We even made the singers play as the players, the actors sing, and creating a choir and all kinds of music that was there. And then at the end, I thought, wow, I have so much music. Let me do something with it. Maybe I should create an opera. But in order to do that, I could not touch the director's libretto for that, or the director's a version of the text, and I had to create it for myself. So I went to the original Bialik that translated the Ansky, and I took the Hebrew of Bialik and I rearranged it. I said I have to do something with it very, very special to make it original, because to make another dibuk just like that, it's not good. And the first, what occurred to me most is that Leah, the main character of the dibuk, in the original play, she's just a young girl, and everything is happening to her. She is, in fact, the main character, but she has no say. She is part of a very orthodox family. She has to follow her father's command and do whatever he says. You marry this, you don't marry that. But nothing is from her perspective. She hardly talks in the play. She only talks when the dibuk goes into her body. And so I said, I'm going to make this play, first of all, as a one-woman play. It's all going to be about Leah. She falls in love, she feels, she speaks, she says, she remembers. Everything is about Leah. But just doing Leah is not enough. I needed now to have a Hanan, the one she's in love with. But as you all know, Hanan dies very early in the first act. So he's basically a ghost. And instead of saying, oh, a ghost, and I remember my own celestial dialogue, the cantor and the clarinet speaking to each other. Oh, let me do that. Let me take the clarinet and make it Hanan. Now I have Hanan, but not singing role, but rather playing the clarinet. And she's talking, and they have dialogues on the stage. Then, of course, we needed the rabbi. And the rabbi was another role. And for the rabbi, I really, for the first time, put straight out Ta'amei Mikra, the Haftarah tropes of Ashkenazic Eastern European Haftarah tropes. And this is the Nusach that the rabbi is speaking with. So I'm going to, if you want, I can show two short parts. One is another Gasse Nigun, sort of a Nigun, I call it Nigun of the 7 circles. This is the part when Leah is supposed to be married to the guy that she doesn't know, she doesn't like, because Hanan is already dead. She's forced to marry another guy, and they are doing the 7 circles ceremony, but she invited Hanan to play in a wedding or to be in a wedding, so he's playing there. And then, of course, this wedding never happens because she screams, "Go away, you murderer, Chemelyuk. I don't know you. I don't want to be married to you." So this would be the first thing that I'm going to play here. Let me share the screen. I'll just find the right place for that.
ועל ידי כך המוצאת את תיקונה.
והנה החופה הובילוני כאלמנה שוממה עם איש זר. תחת אני חמליות. בתוכי באת, בתוכי אשאך.
Okay, and then another little excerpt that I want to end up with is from the exorcism scene, just to show the rabbi and the dibuk arguing, and you can clearly hear the use of Tamei Mikra of the Haftarah as he is singing there. Let's see if I can find it. It should be somewhere around here.
שמי בחוץ, תהום נורא צופייה לי, כיתות כיתות של שדים נכונים לטורפני. על כן לא אצא, אינני יכול, איני רוצה.
ושם על בני ישראל, עם קדוש. עומדי ופזריאל, עליך דיבוק. שתצא תכף ומיד. ואם לא תציית לי, אצא כנגדך. וכרמות ונידויים, ובכל כוח ידיך נטויה, ואם תעשה בחשתי אשתדל בכל כוחי לתקן אותך ולגרש מעליך את כל חשדים וכמחבלים הסובבים אותך.
אינני מתיירא מפני החרמות והקללות ובהבטחותיך איני מאמין גם אין מקום לי בעולם כי יקום תרזה ופנוח כי תינוק מחי קימה אל תגרשוני ואל תשביעוני.
Okay, for the sake of time, I'm stopping here. But that was our last piece. Stop sharing for a second.
Okay, well, Rakefet, did you want to say something?
I think that this piece speaks for itself, and I thank you, Ofer, and thank you, everyone. There are a few very interesting questions if you want to
Yes,
look a little bit about it. Yeah, so
we'll take those. So people have talked about Spanish and French influences, but Laurie, are you there? Laurie had a very...
I am indeed.
Yeah, so Laurie, you...
So, sure, my question for Ofer was, and this is, I'm being selfish because this is something that I deal with all the time, is when you're dealing with, klezmer and cantorial, everything is approximated, and to make these approximations, that was my little nephew there, to make those approximations, it can change and affect the music, and you do such an amazing job of, creating a context and notating it for your musicians. I'm really curious, how have you dealt with those challenges?
Thank you, Laurie, for this question. I didn't find using the tropes or the Jewish material too challenging. I found that it was very flowing. I serve as a Torah reader in several synagogues, and I use this for the Haftarah. Of course, I read in the different tropes for the Torah and using this for the Haftarah. And for me, this is such a flowing recitative that when I came to, when I thought about the rabbi, I thought the rabbi must speak. It's mostly recitation. There are very few arias that the rabbi is doing. So the recitation should flow in this Ashkenazic Haftarah. And I just need to, again, what I do is the instrument on top of the straight Haftarah motives is, again, commentary. I'm commenting on the text with the different instruments so that it gives another level of depth or richness to the music, and it sounds more contemporary thereby. We can't do it just straight synagogue song. So that becomes this conflict between the contemporary style and also the older Tamei Mikra is in itself kind of a conflict, an altercation between two generations. So bring more drama into the play. I don't know if this is an answer, but I tried.
I think what one is also trying to grapple with is when you've got a clarinetist like Giora Feidman or you've got Misha Alexandrovich, how do you write down what you know, as you said, they are interpreting and they are perhaps improvising, and how do you write it down for the next person?
Oh, this is the easiest part. I mostly not write it down. For example, when I work with David Krakauer, I always tell him that he never let my music interfere with his playing. He does whatever he wants. And this is a blessing because when, you know, I just write the notes, but the beauty of people like David or Giora or Misha Alexandrovich, they take it and they like to put their own gestures, their own improvisation on it. And I'm just sitting and I'm just as happy as can be, because this thing often cannot be written down. I can make a little sign for glissando up and down. I can make a little krechts in the notation, but it will never be what these great performers do. And luckily we have these great performers that are doing all this stuff. They need to know how to improvise. They need to know the style, and this is a blessing for the composer. We just write the skeleton.
Thanks. Does that answer your question, Laurie?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Ofer.
Okay. Boaz wanted to ask something, getting down to the nitty-gritty of musical midrash. Boaz.
Thank you. I'm sorry, for some reason I can't get myself on the camera, so that's all you see. And
Hi, Boaz.
I don't want it to sound as criticism, and certainly not of Ofer, who you know I admire you as a top-notch composer. There is something about the term with the musical midrash that when it comes to Jewish music, all of a sudden there is also the woo-woo things going on. And I heard the term dancing midrash and embroidery midrash and weaving midrash, seriously. And I think it does misservice both to Jewish music and to the Jewish concepts, because midrash basically it's a way of explaining something within the text by adding something that was not there. We're making up or pointing to something that was not in the text but was really there anyway to explain a certain point. I don't know any case in which the music actually does that, and so I don't think it's musical midrash. You can give it a lot of other terms, but yeah, I mean, programmatic music I see, musical painting, interpretation, whatever. But when it comes to Jewish music, I don't really think we need to use these extra aura, groovy terms that are actually misleading.
Well, Boaz, since you are an expert of Midrash, I know I'm all humbly here admit that maybe it's not the best. I don't do embroidery Midrash, I can promise you that, and neither a dance Midrash. What I call Midrash, I use Midrash actually translated from the English, and the English would be commentary. And the word commentary, maybe the word Midrash is too sacred to use, but that's the only word we have in Hebrew. But to use commentary, it's perfectly okay, because what we do, for example, when I take the Psalm Kuf Memchet, the 148, and I write it in a specific way in the music, I do not use the word. I threw the words away. I use the rhythm and I use the poetic concept. And by that, I'm highlighting this beautiful passage, biblical passage, in a new light that has not been before. It is my right to do that. And I encourage every composer to go and do the same to any of the Psalms, to any of our texts. If we stop dealing with our text, we will die culturally. And this is the composer's goal, is to take this ancient text and to create new versions, new interpretation, new commentaries. And that's where the word midrash comes from. I'm not making a big deal of the word midrash itself, but it's the new perspective, a new perspective on the text that counts. I don't know if it answers, but I hope it does.
I know exactly what you're doing. The problem, it's not you. I mean, the field is full of using Midrash in that sense, and it's misleading. I'm not saying everything that you want to do and you do with Jewish music is fantastic. I would just think that it's important not to call it Midrash. Midrash is not commentary. Midrash is a very specific notion within Jewish discourse, and I think we're doing it misjustice when we use it in this term. You can find other words.
Okay, I'll use commentary and I will use the discourse. And I will not mention Midrash anymore in this conversation ever.
Jack, did you want to come in? Jack Kessler.
It's important to let it go in the field at large. It's not necessarily you.
Yeah, no, I know you mean it as a trend. I never use it as part of a trend. I just thought about it when I did it. But it's only called, I only call it Midrash when it goes with biblical, particularly biblical or Mishnaic text that I'm dealing with. It's just that, but not in any other kind of, I use a lot the word commentary because I think that when I do arrangement of musical arrangement, sometimes I let the singer sing pretty much closer to the original, but I serve the piano as a commentary on the melody or on the text. Sometimes this commentary is in the form of tone painting. Sometimes it's an expansion or extension of the music itself, and so on. It's just a way to look at things, nothing more than. At the end, it's only the music that counts, not what we talk about it.
Jack Kessler, did you want to come in on that?
Thank you. Good point. Talking about music is not music. Yeah, and as I mentioned in the chat, it's a little difficult to apply the term midrash because all music is program music, according to one way of thinking. But more specifically, Ofer, how do you notate a krechts?
Well, sometimes it's just a little squiggle that goes up or down. A little wavy line or something like that. I just say to the performer, do a krechts. By the way, I have to give Jack his due honor that he actually honored me by the first in America to sing Rolls Royce. And he did it in a conference that Bar-Sadeh invited me. So I feel very much at home with everybody here. Boaz invited me to New York to a conference organized by Neil Levin, and Jack was the singer, and he sang the Rolls Royce among other songs. So that was wonderful memories. 1988, yeah.
That's amazing to bring everybody together. That's just what we hope to be able to do. Marsha, you wanted to talk about influences, and I see Agnes wants to say something after that. Marsha, are you?
Yes.
Are you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Marsha. Yeah, hi, Marsha.
Get into my my video, but I had one question about the first, I guess, song you did, the Rose Rose. Let me just see if I can find it because I put them in the chats, and my brain is like a sieve at the moment, so I'm just looking for it. Let's see. Sorry for that. Okay. I wanted to ask you, to what extent, if any, did the lyrics or words of the song with reference to the Shekhinah, which I understand to be the embodiment of the feminine divine presence, influence your musical choices for this shtetl song? I guess that's what you had indicated, the title. Has it always been performed only by women? And I think you spoke to that sort of in response to another question maybe, or have male vocalists embraced it as far as you know?
In my opinion, all vocal music was written just for women, and men needs to get some transposition so that they will have some repertoire to sing along. But really, Jack did it because we were good friends in Philadelphia, and we worked together, we played together. But mostly all the recordings, for example, the Milkin Archive recorded these songs with Reut Ben-Zeev, a soprano. The recording that I played today was Cristina Martos, an Hispanic singer. It is mostly for women. And so that is one thing about the kind of songs that I was thinking about a female voice when I did that. However, the interpretation of, I didn't put any specific meaning to the word Shechina except for the second verse is so totally different from the first. The first would be just a straight folk song with some interesting harmony. The second would be like a Picasso painting of the face of his wife, where he puts the ear on one side and the eye on another side. So breaking everything apart and just screaming to the Shekhinah, Shekhinah, where are you? Why are you so far? Galut, why are you so long? And so it became more of expressive kind of song instead. It's no longer these folk songs of this shepherd that was singing it in the forest. So that's what I did. That was the emphasis.
Was there a consideration to not have it be performed or not even invoke or consider from a gender perspective because of any religious prohibition that you thought would be there?
No. I don't think in this. If it's really strict religious, no women could really sing it in public, and this would mean I would not be able to be a composer at all. Everything I write, like the D-book, is a one female show. The songs are mainly by female singers, and
I didn't really mean it from the performer's perspective. I meant it from your perspective.
From my perspective, I'm not relating here to gender at all. Sometimes I get a request from men to sing the song, and then they say, please transpose it one step down, one step up, and so on. So no, for me, all singers are wonderful, and I love to work with everybody.
Okay, and the other question I had was regarding the song that you spoke so eloquently about regarding your Sephardic influences. And a number of us in the chat had made reference to hearing Debussy or De Falla or, some of that classical Spanish composer's influence. But I was wondering if you could tell us if your compositional choices are informed by any particular harmonic system, and if not, what led you to pick this particular musical, harmonic, melodic style for this piece? What did you see as the Sephardic markers?
That was a very good observation. Of course, it's very much like De Falla, or even Montpou, any of the Spanish composer, and this is natural because this is Judeo-Spanish music, and even the melody originally must have been Spanish because that is the source of all Ladino songs. All Ladino songs come from the Spanish culture. They were just kept and preserved by Jews, Sephardic Jews, when indeed many of the Spanish people forgot about them. Not long ago, there was a big project by the Spanish government to to collect lots of Spanish songs. And once they ended up with several hundred songs, somebody from Jerusalem came and said, and where is this song and where is this song? And what about all these other songs? What are they not Spanish? And suddenly they discovered the Jews remembered so many other songs that they don't have in their repertoire anymore. And this increased the collection in about 30%.
Wow.
So anything that I did, it might sound a little bit like, I don't pretend to be super original. I'm not trying to be original. I'm trying to do just whatever I'm doing. I'm very influenced from Debussy and De Falla. And I think that this music particularly is very nostalgic. I wrote it at a time that there was a closure here in Colorado we were not allowed to go out of the house except for shopping, and I was locked in, and I thought about this girl, La Serena, locked in the middle of the sea, and cannot go out, and this became very nostalgic for me. I didn't want to do anything that is overly intellectual or modern. I just wanted to do something a little more jazzy, more pleasing, and just bring here the melody with its beauty so that people can enjoy that.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I mean, I confess I wasn't that familiar with your music, but having heard all of these examples, I think your music is just incredibly beautiful and meaningful. So thank you for your comments. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'm very humbled by that. Yeah.
Thanks, Marsha. Agnes, you wanted to say something. Unmute. And then Isabel.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's absolutely wonderful, beautiful music. And I'm amazed, 21st century, that I can listen to melody. I can sing it in the 21st century. So wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I may have misheard you, but I think you said that you based one of your pieces on a Hungarian folk song. And if I heard you correctly, what made you use a Hungarian folk song? And what was that Hungarian folk song?
I think the original word is Roger Roger. And I don't know if this is, I hear the little Hungarian accent in your voice.
Yeah, it's not that little.
But which is beautiful. Just from, I didn't know that until I really analyzed the melody and the rhythm in this melody. And once I got to hear the words were in Hungarian and the original shepherd song. And this is one of the melodies that probably, if Bartok would know about it, he would write an entire concerto just with this melody because it's so beautiful. But this melody also was sung by Hasidim, and there's the story that I told, I attributed, that they used to buy the melodies from the goy, from the Gentile, and then they use it for themselves. They put a new meaning, new text to it, and a lot of the Jewish music that we know is coming from either Czech folk songs, Hungarian folk songs, Romanian folk songs, and other. We have in Israel lots of folk music that comes from the Arabic folk songs, Bedouin, and so on. So this is very, very common.
So I'm in a position now that I came across a Hungarian song via you, because I never heard this song before. So it's quite interesting. Anyway, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Beautiful music. Very much enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Agnes. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks, Agnes. Now, Isabel, you wanted to say something?
Yes. Ofer, it's
Hi, Isabel. Great seeing you.
You know, right in the middle of the dibik, I heard that raised, that repeated perfect fourth, and I heard Zuntik bulbus.
Yes, yes, that is that's actually the sort of almost a funeral melody that I'm using here. Yeah.
My question was, I would imagine that the majority of your students in Boulder are non-Jewish. How do you explain your style to non-Jews? So steeped in Judaism.
First, I don't explain that. I'm in Colorado Springs, and it's true. We have in Colorado College about a quarter of the students are Jewish. So there is a nice, I teach Jewish music. And sometimes I play to them the recording of Psalm 23. I need to find it. I remember that you sang it so beautifully in Philadelphia. That was just tremendous. You gave the world premiere of this piece. When I teach Jewish music, then I try to explain what it is, and we cover it from historical and cultural perspective. but I always ask the listener, just relate to it as music. Don't think about it as particularly Jewish music or not Jewish music. Maybe my goal, my hidden goal was when I was thinking about, how Gershwin brought jazz to the art music stage, and how Bartok and Stravinsky brought just folk music onto the stage with form of art music. Often I try to bring just synagogue tunes onto the stage and turn them into art music. Take them out of the original context and bring them and showing the tremendous beauty of this music. And now it can be sound, not as Jewish music, but just as pure music. And I think that people react to it, even non-Jewish people, they react to it as they enjoy it. It's cause them pleasure, and they say, wow, these tunes are really nice.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's lovely. Now, Benny wanted to say something, and after that, David Fligg, if you'd like to make your comments, and then Malcolm Miller will wrap up for us. So, Benny?
Amos, I want to remind you, when we were both young, we were talking
Benny,
and teaching in Mishkenot Sha'ananim together. But I want to tell you that as a Chazan, what you spoke, still remember me.
Oh, of course, Benny.
And your father took me on a trip to the Namal. By the way, anyway, what I wanted to say is that everything that you spoke about the Midrash really was identified with my journey as a Chazan, different than, of course, the skills of writing down, but the inner vision of every word that a Chazan sings. And I also did with Giora Feidman a few things in the past. But when you and I even did a little concert of songs of the Chalutzim,
I remember that very well. Yes,
I saw the depth of your understanding. I just sang it because we grew up together, Bato Kfar. But the depth of your richness of your understanding is really I'm so privileged that I was on here today. I just wanted to remind you of when we both were young. I knew then when you taught at the Mishkenot Sha'ananim with John Rausch and Kingsley and Mikam Gurevich, it was in Dan Almagor.
Yes.
Those are the years, but your journey was unbelievable. So I want to commend you. And by the way, really, where can I get, if you do have choral music, because I used to conduct 3 choirs, and I really, and we perform music from the 12th century to the 21st century. Now that I'm retired, I have more time for that. But where can I get to be in touch with you about choral music?
I will send you everything I have, not a problem at all. I will put my email here at the bottom, so anyone who wants to stay in touch, I would love that. Benny, I remember, yes, we were young. We're still young. Let's say we were young and beautiful, now we're only beautiful. And I remember Mishkenot Sha'ananim, and this was, I have been loyal to this kind of Achad Ha'am philosophy of creativity since then. And, many of us that met in this group, I think we still believe that creativity is just a tremendous tool to promote, the Jewish life and Jewish history. So
and thank you for sharing it with the world. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you so much. I'm really humbled by what you're saying. Here is I'm putting my address, Ofer Ben-Amots at coloradocollege.edu. And yeah, please, anyone, feel free to contact me at any time.
If you sign up on our list that Laurie has sent round, then that is an email list that we can email everybody. So if you haven't signed, if you've once signed it, you're on. But if you haven't signed it, then please do. Just look in the chat, you'll find it. And then we can all be in touch by email. David, you wanted to say something. David Fligg.
Ofer, thank you so much for an absolutely fascinating session. I've so enjoyed it. And I agree with Alex that you are a gem. So
thank you so much.
It's been totally enlightening and fascinating. I just put a comment on the chat with regard to my own research area, which is the music of Theresienstadt camp,
Yes.
and what the composers were doing there, and how they were sort of winning back their Judaism, if you like. Gideon Klein was brought up in a reasonably traditional, though largely assimilated background. But it seems to me that that there are all sorts of hidden meanings and messages and ciphers in the music that him and Victor Ullmann and Pavel Haas and maybe Hans Krasser were putting into their works as well. And just to direct people that in the chapter which I mention, which appears in the recently published Routledge Handbook to Music under German occupation, I actually discuss to what extent I believe that these ciphers in Gideon Klein's string trio belong to a Jewish tradition. I think that they really are midrashic, not only in terms of commentary, but in terms of the sort of the allegories that they are giving over as well. In fact, I even go so far as to quote from the Lubavitcher Rebbe to support my arguments as well. So I just wanted to put that on the table with regard to the links between music and Jewish music and Midrash.
Thank you so much, David. And the work of the Terezin, not only Terezin, by the way, composer, but generally Holocaust composer. There are a few others. There are a few that just visited and what didn't stay there. I'm actually right now dealing with writing a big arrangement of chamber music from Terezin and from the Holocaust into orchestral works. So we are expanding them with the question, what would have this great composer done if they had a real proper orchestra to deal with? So instead of writing a duo or a quartet or a trio, they would probably do much more with that. That is so inspiring to us. And, you know, thinking about them, everybody's complaining about staying home during the COVID. They should better think about the composers in Terezin, what they had to deal with on a daily basis. And so I think it's a very good comment. I love your comment.
Thank you. Now, we're coming to the close. I'm going to first, before I come to Malcolm, tell you about COZ next week.
Moshe wanted to ask something, I think. Moshe?
Yeah? Okay. Moshe?
Moshe Rasyuk? You are muted, Moshe.
Yes. I just want to thank you, Ofer. A long time that we didn't see each other. And thank you that you remember Yosef Dorfman, that I'm also was a student of him. And thank you for your music. It's very interesting.
Thank you, Moshe, so much. Yeah, Dorfman was a great guy. Unfortunately, he died too early.
Okay, is there anybody else who wants to say something before we talk about what's coming next? Otherwise, I wanted to tell you that next week we have a very important, in July, we got a group of cantors together to talk about what was in store for the high holidays and what was the impact on synagogues, on cantors, particularly on synagogue music. And now next week, we're going to have a reflection, looking back on what actually happened and what we think the implications are, because we're living with this thing for a long time. So I first wanted to say that we have a place or two available on the panel. So if anybody would like to talk to that about the high holidays and the implications for synagogues and for cantors in the future, contact me at geraldine@cantors.eu. And there's could be a place on the panel. Otherwise, tune in. We have Eric Moses from Toronto. We have Benny Rogoznitsky from New York, and other people who, from around the world, Albie Chait from Leeds, talking about, something really, really significant that's going to affect everybody's future. So this is Jewish music, where its very roots are being shaken. So let's see how we deal with that. And the week after that, we're having Daniel Katz and Boaz Tarsi. So Boaz is going to be working with Daniel Katz, looking at synagogue music before Zulza. They've got a whole program there. The following week, we've got the Milken Foundation are interviewing the nonagenarian David Amram, amazing composer. So it'll be really brilliant to have him. And the week after that, Agnes and David Fligg will be talking about Hungarian Jewish musicians. So we've got a lot in store. And the last one this year will be Michael Shapiro talking again, composer in focus with Elliot Forrest. So with all the beautiful notes of Ofer's music today, I want to pass over to Malcolm Miller, who's got something to say, and then he'll wrap up for everybody else. So Malcolm.
Okay, thanks for asking me to say something. Well, first of all, I just want to say, obviously, thank you for a wonderful session, both to Rakefet, Bar-Sadeh, and to Ofer Ben-Amots. It was a real conversation, and you managed to get through a wonderful array of music to introduce to some people and to remind us of Ofer's wonderful inventiveness and artistry, and so it was a wonderful experience, intellectual, musical, sensual, and very stimulating. I actually have many connections with Ofer because we've gone back a little bit. I think one of the connections is actually the shofar, because when I heard you talk about the Opus 81, the choral work and your quotation from the shofar, I don't know if I included the work actually in a chapter I recently wrote on the shofar in classical music. Also, your trio, apparently you use something in the Odessa trio. There's a reference to the shofar, but also you are the editor of a journal called Shofar, or you I don't know if you're still doing that, but
many years ago.
Many years ago, yeah, which shows that the multifaceted aspect that you really one of the wonderful ability to sort of talk and to speak about music, and it was lovely to hear you being so open about your inspiration and your influences and your ideas behind your pieces, and it's so rich, really, that all the way that you discussed the inspiration from the texts. But one central point which I thought I might just bring out, which is when you said it all goes back to that age-old question, what is Jewish music, which you started with. And I just want to raise another question, which maybe not so age-old, but at least it's an equally unanswerable one, is what is Israeli music? And that's something that's been actually interesting me for quite a long time. But I see that if one doesn't have to define or categorize or pigeonholes, that you sort of exemplify, I think, I would say, maybe you might sort of object, but one wonderful aspect of Israeli music, which is a creative contemporary take on the rich heritage, whether it is Sephardi, whether it is North African, whether it is Middle Eastern, whether it's Ashkenazi, and a way of making it contemporary and bringing it to the globe, to the global audience, which is but perhaps what's happening in Israeli music at the moment, and it's not always been the case, but there have been different phases of Israeli music. I won't use the word generations; it's apparently not allowed. But there are different ways of seeing the evolution, and I think the vitality of it is what comes out here. And I think that if the more we can sort of explore that and sort of and nourish it, I think the better. And you're a driving force in that. So I salute you and say very, very big thanks and shakoy, and a big thanks for this experience this afternoon. So I'll stop there.
Good. Well, so thank you again, Ofer and Rakefet. You've been wonderful. It's been a great session for COZ, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. So bye for now.